It's our second show, and this is awesome. So if they're going to be like this, I hope you guys will all come back. This is really wonderful. It really is. We're very proud of this room. This room is built for, it's our studio. And
this room is built for making money. You guys make so much money off this concert series.
You sound great, by the way, man. Thank you. All right, thank you. I love you. What you're doing.
That was ironic, in case you guys didn't know. They have a thriving, amazing business, and they create a place like this and a concert series like this because they care about the arts. And this is the thing they don't.
So this is totally like something that we just wanted to do. It's just like we love. I'm a bass player by trade. That's how I started Powerstation. And yeah, so it's like, and John back there doing the sound has been my dear friend and confidant for so many years. And he's doing the sound, and I know you guys can appreciate the way that everything sounds here tonight. And whether it's solo artist or a full orchestra or band, you know, John can make it sound amazing. So yeah, so Mickey said to me earlier, she goes, "This is just sounding unbelievable to me." I said, well, it's a combination of three things. I said, four things. I said, the artist is amazing sounding.
Absolutely.
So that's number one. I said, the room is a great room. It's just a great sounding room. And it was designed to be what you hear. It's a studio. Also, the equipment is top notch. And John's talent behind the board is what it makes it.
And whiskey.
Well, five things. I forgot the whiskey. I'm sorry. 5 things. Right. But thank you again for coming. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, Ian, so much for all your help at putting this together. Yeah. And he and I are partners as well as with Beth and Evan. We have Black Bear. And I hope you guys all show up to that because that is a hell of a music festival. Yeah. Woo! And, you know, we're looking forward to seeing this year. It's going to be even bigger than ever. So, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. There goes your 20 minutes, Ian. You're fucked.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice night. Yes. So Adam Ezra will be closing our night on Sunday at Black Bear. And last year, they just made that crowd scream, and you were so nice because we were going to close off at 8 o'clock, and at 8:15, like, you looked over and said, "I'm just going to keep going, okay?" And we said, yeah, absolutely. So we left them wanting more. So I'm going to do 20 minutes. I'm going to try to stay tight to it because Vance Gilbert took me so far past our limit that we barely gave him enough chance to play any more songs. So I'm going to hit start on this and go. But what I'd like is to give you an opportunity if you want, and I'm going to Monty Hall it and walk through the audience, and you can make a deal with me to ask Adam a question. So start. Anybody got any questions for Adam? Anybody?
I do.
Yes, great.
How did you? Oh God.
First of all, you look really good. And I appreciate that. How did you choose your daughter's name?
Oh, that's a really good question. So it's actually really, Allie and I don't know how many parents we have in the room here, but you know, we knew that we wanted to be parents well before we were married and well before we had Willa, and so one of the fun games we would play very, very often is, you know, what are we going to name it when it comes around? And we her full name is Willa Ruby Olshansky. Olshansky's my last name, and so Willa was a name that we both really, really loved. But you know, Allie comes from Nebraska roots. Her granny grew up in the Dust Bowl in Brunswick, Nebraska. You ever what was that? What was the movie called Nebraska? It was filmed in Plainview, Nebraska. If there was a movie that was famous that came out, and I think it was called Nebraska. I can't remember, but you watch that movie and you're like, whoa, this is way out there. Plainview was the city that the people in the Brunswick drove to get their groceries, right? So this is the town that they still go back there. At age 17, Allie's granny got on a bus. This is the middle of the Depression. Got on a bus, 17-year-old gal on her own, and got on a bus to Chicago. And she found work as a secretary. And she was at a investment firm. And one day, there was this young fella with one arm, got in the elevator with her, and asked her if she wanted to chew a gum. And she said she knew then that was the guy. That was the guy. His name was Leslie, and they got married, and he made his fortune as an investor at this company, and they eventually went back to Brunswick, Nebraska. They built a log cabin. They bought the one-room schoolhouse in the town. And every year, Allie's extended family from all over the country travels to Brunswick for Thanksgiving. And all of the men, it's old school, people. It's old school, okay? These are incredibly brilliant, professional, badass women, but they stay in the log cabin and they cook with Granny and make the pies, they do the thing. And the men, we bunk in the schoolhouse. And the first year I was allowed to come to Thanksgiving, the first morning I woke up to Allie's father nudging me out of my cot, saying, "Hey, you gonna come hunting with the men, or are you gonna stay in the house with the women today?" I hadn't held a gun before, let alone shot something with a gun. And I said, "Yes, sir, I believe I'm gonna be hunting with you." And so every year, that's what I do. I go out to Nebraska and I go hunting with the fellas, and I have a policy to justify my I don't need to. Nobody has to justify anything in their lives that they care about. But for me personally, I decided if I was going to be a hunter, and they hunt pheasant out there. They hunt pheasant, and so when I kill a pheasant, I clean the pheasant myself, and I freeze the pheasant. I take it back to Boston, and I cook the pheasant for Allie, who makes fun of my cooking, and that's the process. And but we wanted to pay. Coming back to your question, I'm worse than pants, aren't I? No.
There's one question.
But we wanted to pay tribute to Allie's family and her roots, and we loved the name Willa. It reminded us of Willa Cather. And for those of you who have not read "Oh Pioneers," you should, because it's an amazing book. She's a great writer and a woman heroine back in pioneer days. The hero of that book, man, if Willa has a little bit of that kind of constitution in her, I'll be pretty blown away. There's a Jewish tradition that you name your child after someone who's deceased, and for those of you that know me, I'm a rule breaker. You don't have to name. You don't always have to name the name exactly. You can use the first letter of the name. So my father was still alive, but his name was Robert, and so we went with Ruby. Little Ruby.
If anybody else has any other questions, I recommend you ask them, because we might have one or two more. Only please be yourself. That sounds beautiful. Another question? Yes, please.
Hi, Adam.
Hi.
Where do you find your inspiration? How do you find your inspiration? And when do you find your inspiration for the music you write?
That's a tough one. think deep on this. I want to answer this. I want to value that. Because that's a pretty, right? That's an easy question to gloss over, if you think about it, right? But I think when I decided to be a musician, I made a pact with myself that it wouldn't just be the thing that I did for a living. It wouldn't just be that I wrote songs and I played songs. It would be that that my life would be music. That what I experienced, my mission would be to take what I was experiencing and seeing and attempt to translate it into the music that I created. So, you know, a night like this is inspiration. Hanging with Ian backstage and talking about music and his festival, and it's where I get my inspiration. I drive down here, and I was on the phone, you know. Last night, me and my wife curled up, too exhausted to even talk to one another after a long day. That's it. That's music. That's music. Because we all experience those things, you know. And the music isn't just the notes that you play or the lyrics. Music can be, you know, music can be the act of letting yourself be vulnerable enough to cry in front of a bunch of people in a room because that's what you're thinking about and that's what you need to do in the moment. And the more steps I try to allow myself to take in that direction, the more it connects, and the more I get back, and the more I can write, the more I have the capacity to be the musician that I want to be.
Good.
Yes.
She has one.
Why don't you grab the mic, ask her, and then hand it back to her.
You guys both ask your questions and I'll answer them in tandem.
Adam, what do you know today about performing as opposed to just songwriting that you wish you knew 15, 20 years ago when you got started?
Oh, I love that question. Okay, what's the next one? Come on, I want to hear
Mine
both.
too? Okay.
Yeah. I want to percolate on both.
All right. Other people might know this answer, but I'm not a very, very long time fan. So I know your name is Adam Olshansky. Where did Ezra come from?
Ezra's my middle name. I'm going to answer that one first. Ezra's my middle name, named after my great-grandfather, Ezra Miller. As my mom tells the story, Ezra was, he was bad with money. He immigrated from Israel, and he lived in the Bronx, where he owned a convenience store, and he was, they were a family that scraped by in the Bronx. And he was the kind of guy where, as my grandma would tell me, and my grandma was my special one. And as she would tell me, he'd be sitting down at the dinner table on a random Tuesday night, and he'd look at his family and look at his kids, and he'd just start crying at the dinner table. That was Ezra, and he died before I was born, as is tradition. That I buck, but I was named for Ezra. Now, before I started playing music, I went to college. I was not really playing music back then. I was more interested in playing lacrosse, playing music. lacrosse got me into a better school than I deserved to be in for my grades. And I remember coming home my freshman year for holiday break, and my mom met me at the door, and she said, "Adam, I just had the most vivid dream about you last night." And I said, "Oh yeah, what was that?" And she said, "I dreamed that you were on a stage. Behind you in letters, in big letters, there was a word. There was Adam Ezra." Now, I had never gone by Ezra. My name was Adam Olshansky. That's what I grew up as, Adam Olshansky. And as a freshman in college is apt to do, I rolled my eyes at my mother and went in and ate dinner. And didn't think about it again until 4 years later, when I had really I had begun trying to travel around the world and trying to experience as much different perspective that was not, felt like I grew up comfortably. And I went to a comfortable college around comfortable people, and I didn't want that. So I did my best to try and experience as much as I could from the real world. Try to understand what it meant to really work hard. And as I did that more and more, I brought this thing around with me, and I started writing songs, and those became the most real and honest parts of myself, it felt like. The stuff that I was able to translate and write through the guitar. And so I decided, you know what, if this feels like the most real part of me, then that's just going to be what I'm going to do. And I decided, and I made a pact with myself that there wouldn't be a plan B, and it probably would mean that I would wake up before you knew it. I'd be 65 years old, and I'd be playing at Joe's Crab Shack on the North Shore of Massachusetts on Thursday nights, playing yacht rock covers. And I said to myself, okay, if that ends up being what happens, then so be it. That's my life. That's it. That's fine. That's fine. But no plan B. So I moved to Chicago, where my friends, Rob and Jeff Stone, had an apartment, and they had a little closet in the back of their apartment, and I moved into the closet. And I worked as the recess guy at an elementary school during the day, and I played at open mics at night. The first couple open mics I went out as Adam Olshansky. And you can imagine how they butchered that name. And I came home, and I said, oh, I remembered the dream that my mom had. And from that point on, I was Adam Ezra. You thought that was a stupid question, didn't you? You did good. Okay, let's go back to the first one, because it was a great question. Will you just ask it again, frame it again the way you framed it?
Sure. What part of entertaining, Adam, do you know today that you wish you knew back when you first
to not try so hard.
The guitar? Not try so hard. That's interesting.
It's always been my biggest fault. I try so hard. I grip so tight. So tight, I lose the thing that I'm trying to express, because I want it so bad. I want people to like me so bad. I try so hard. And ironically, if you try less hard, you let your real stuff out. And man, I wish I knew that. I wish I knew that when I started. Wish I knew that when I started. Good question.
We have time for one more. Anybody else? We have time for one more. Do I see anything? No? Okay, Adam, yes, good.
I really enjoyed your guitar style playing.
Oh, thank you.
And this is my first time seeing you.
Awesome. What's your name?
Carl Cunningham.
Carl, nice to meet you.
Yeah, this is my husband Ryan.
Ryan, nice to meet you.
This is my friend.
Sorry, I made you shift over every time I walk by. It's close quarters.
I take up a lot of room.
Yeah, you and me both, buddy.
So I've noticed a lot of different styles of your guitar playing.
Mm.
Picked up everything from country to some blues, little rock.
Mm.
So, what is your inspiration? What is your favorite style?
That's a really good question.
Oh. And I'm a trumpet player, not a guitarist.
No. I think that I'm a unique guitar player because there's part of me that very stubbornly refused to ever learn how to play guitar. I don't know how to read music, and I didn't know, and you know, that's the kind of thing. If you decide, I don't mind working hard. For those of you that know me, I'm a hard worker, right? I'm a musician. So you got to ask yourself, okay, why the fuck did he just not learn how to read music? It seems like it doesn't make a lot of sense. And you'd be right to ask that question. And sometimes I ask myself that question, but I think from the beginning, so like, there's this crazy thing, right? Like, you got this guitar and it's got 6 strings, and you can learn a couple chords, and then you can play 5,000 songs, right, with 3 chords, right? But a chord isn't just a chord. This is a G chord, right? But that note right there, remember when I was talking about the open tuning? You can create that same kind of thing. You can put your finger down here. Remember when I was doing this? Right? You can do that without open tuning. Watch this. And so, when I was teaching myself guitar, I was using my ears to pick out the things that I liked. And when you have a G chord like this, you don't just have to do that. If you just happen mistakenly to take your pointer finger off, whoa. That's all just a G chord, right? And I don't know what I'm doing as far as theory goes. And if I was a slave to theory, I might have been trying to maybe play a proper chord rather than use my ears to figure out what the music was, where the music was wanting to go. For me, what is my style? I don't know. I love so much. I grew up listening to folk music through my mom, but I fell in love with classic rock, and Led Zeppelin blew my mind in high school, and that's all I wanted to listen to. I love the jam bands because I love listening to jam bands because every single night was a unique experience. I loved that. And I wanted every night to be a unique experience. And my other challenge that I had to get over was that when I had a band, right, I had to separate myself. In the beginning, people would say, well, are you a jam band? Because you do a lot of jam kind of stuff with your band. And I had to evolve into the band that we are now, which we play every night differently, but we're not a jam. That's not what it's about. It's not about like these long meandering improvisational sections. There's improvisation every single night, but it's our own style of improvisation. And sometimes the improvisation is the connection and the words spoken between. I'm inspired by blues, I'm inspired by folk, I'm inspired by rock, I'm inspired by Americana and Celtic music, and I don't know how to play the guitar, so somehow it comes out in the things that I noodle around with that become songs. And so, so hearing a first-time listener say, "Oh, I hear some of this and I hear some of this. How do you describe your style, or where does it come from?" Because I can't quite wrap my brain around it. I think you wrapped your brain around it perfectly.
Adam, thank you for exposing yourself, emotionally speaking. And, thank you all for being here. That's right, it's not allowed back in some places. If you would, raise the spirits and re-welcome Adam Ezra.